Paul. I'll do a quick. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular Zoom call we have. Delighted that today we're joined by Phil. Welcome, Phil. Welcome back to the club. Been a while.
Thank you very much. Yeah, 3 or 4 years. I've obviously watched not every game, but watched for the results because had 5 years of my life at Southend. So you get an affinity with a football club, with certain football clubs, and I had a nice spell in India. When I was over in India, I was watching results from afar, and probably as disappointed as you guys how the club was going.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. What we'll do is just have a quick rundown so you just know who we all are and who we all represent. Then what I thought we'd do is just give the floor to you, let you say whatever you want to say, whatever you want to tell us. And if there's any questions that come out the back of that, we'll go around, and then we'll go on to Tom and talk about the more nitty-gritty bits around painting changing rooms and that kind of stuff. So I'll introduce me. My name's Kerry. I'm chairing this today. I chair the liaison group. I chair the share with Paul Fitzgerald from the Trust, but he can't be here today. So I'm in there. I'll hand over to Paul Yeomanson.
Yeah, hi Phil. Paul Yeomanson, Vice Chair of Shrimpers Trust and General Dog's Body.
Michael?
Yeah, I'm here to represent disabled fans and their carers.
Ken?
Yeah, Ken Taylor, representing Blues on Tour, which you may remember in your former life, Phil, as travel zones. But yeah, we're still alive and kicking and going well.
Leslie?
Shrimpers Trust, I'm the Society Secretary, and I also organise the away travel for the Shrimpers Trust.
Simon?
Simon Dodd, I'm the Director of the Shrimpers Trust, and I'm stepping in for Paul Fitzgerald, who unfortunately the Chairman who can't make it today.
Jay?
Yeah, Jay from All at Sea Fanzine. Yeah, we've been going about 15 years, so you probably know us.
Rich?
Hi, I'm Richard Smith. I'm the Vice Chair of Sega Southend.
Dan, I know you're having some technical issues there. You're on mute, mate.
Who are you on? Me?
No, Dan.
I think I'm right now.
Dan will be telling you is the blue voice of the people that make the noise in the group. So, Jim?
Hi, Jim. I'm currently in North Wales, but that's not where I live. But I do represent the exiles, so I represent anybody who doesn't live in and around the Southend Essex area, including those who live in India.
Yeah, so that's who we all are. So welcome back, Phil. It's good to see you back. What's your views on how you found the club when you came in at the end of last season, and the improvements you've brought in playing staff and organisation in the months since then?
Yeah, when I first came back, it was I first got the phone call from Ron, and I think I went public with this, so it's not a secret. He called me up just after the Christmas period, around about December, back in December, early January, and I was in India at the time. And I don't think Ron quite understood the problems I would have had getting out of India. You know, it was a 2-week period, probably trying to get out of India. Then it was 2 weeks in lockdown, which was compulsory at the time when I was back in England. So I'd have been a month on the sideline, and that for me wasn't going to do Southend United any help whatsoever, having a manager who had displaced the manager, as it were, and then couldn't be on the touchline or even on the training ground on a daily basis. I'm all about emotion, I'm all about passion, I'm all about getting my points of view across on a one-to-one or in a group setting on the training ground on a daily basis. People tend to get to know what I'm all about when it's upfront and personal as opposed to from a distance. So I couldn't see it working, and that was the reason why I turned the chairman down at that time. But I said to him, you know, I wished him well, and I certainly wished Mark Mosley well. I wish any manager any harm whatsoever. I just thought, former club of mine, it was in a state of, shall we say, disarray to a certain extent. Obviously, the position that they found themselves in. And again, I'm not here to blame anyone or call anybody. I think they needed a new direction, or they needed new help. And I said to him, when I come back from India, give us a call if you fancy a coffee. That wasn't that wasn't like the sword of Damocles hanging over the head of Mark Mosley, that was just an offer of a helping hand, simple as that. You know, whether it was a director of football role or just on a conversational front, whatever. But that was the state of play. That's the way it was, and there was an upturn in results. Strangely enough, all of a sudden there was 2 or 3 good results. I thought, wow, you know, something's happened. There's been a change of mentality, a change of look, form, whatever. And consequently, because of that, it went back to obviously the state of play at the start of the season and during the course of that season up until December. And when I came back from India, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 games too late for to take the reins with 6 to go. I still fancied the challenge. I still fancied, I just backed myself. It's just as simple as that. I'm that type of guy. And I backed myself and I fancied myself, and probably one more win would have done it. But, you know, it wasn't to be. There was certainly a turn in form. There was certainly a turn in the mentality of the team. But there was a different style of play. And, you know, I'm not going to say I'm a miracle worker by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to say that we basically went back to front, got second balls and played from there. And when you're playing in the opposition's half, it's much less pressure and it's much easier if you've got the quality of the players. And I thought we had 1 or 2 decent players, I've got to say it. I thought Tyrrell Egby was a revelation from when I left the club to when I came back in. I thought Tyrrell will grant me this one, I thought he'd grown up. And he was playing with the stature of a first team player, of a senior. So there were certain ones that you were, you know, looking at and saying yes, and other ones that just were not contributing whatsoever. But that's normal in football. You're never going to get a changing room 100% behind the manager, because by definition you only pick 11 players on a weekly basis. So they're the ones that are going to back the manager, and the rest are not also runs, but they're with you until push comes to shove. Well, push was definitely coming to shove with 6 games to go. And I wasn't there making any promises. I wasn't pulling any punches. I was going after everybody. And if you could handle it, you'd be here next year and hopefully in the 2nd division. And it wasn't to be. But that's by the by, you know, that's in the past now. And conversations with the chairman. At the time, he had offered me a good contract of a 2-year +1. And I said, no, I didn't want it. Give me the 6 games and we'll take it from there after all that is finished. And the deal remained on the table. And I thought, I know the club. I thought, if anything, knowing the club was the key factor, and knowing me as a chairman or supporters, I think you relate to me as supporters. You relate to the fact that, yeah, okay, you get sacked. That's put that on the back burner. You know, every manager gets a sack. But you know what I'm about. I'm a passionate guy, and I wanted to put a bit of pride back in the shirt, and I think I can with backing and help and rebuilding the club. And the challenge for me is about the rebuild. It's, you know, you guys are there week in and week out, day in and day out. You guys don't go away. Same faces, just got older. The same as me. Same face, just got older. But you know, that age comes with that age comes wisdom, or you hope it becomes. You become a little bit wiser the older you get. But you guys on the terraces now, having been starved of a little bit of success when we were together last time, and to go from a 40% win ratio to less than 25% over the 3 or 4 years I've been away from the club. I feel for you. I felt for you at the time when I came back, because you're still there. You're passionate about your club, and hopefully we can join forces again and steer the club in the right direction. But it doesn't happen overnight, as you well know. I think the restructuring of the club, Tom's probably made reference to that on previous Zoom calls. The restructuring of the club was important. I've always made reference to a tanker, a big old-fashioned tanker sailing into the wrong direction. You can't just turn it round. You've got to stop it first. You've got to steer it in a different direction, and then eventually it'll turn round. And that's the process that we've been going through since I've arrived. And since Tom's arrived, the restructuring of Ricky Duncan has been an important key factor for me. Having a director of football, it sounds ridiculous, but you know, 5th tier of English football, it doesn't matter how far you go down. The passion of the supporters is entrenched in the belief that we can turn this thing around and point it again back in the right direction into the Football League, and that's the job. Now you're going to fire a lot of questions at me, I should imagine, and them answers will hopefully come out in the right way.
I'll start off with the first question. Is where are we with the first team coach? I know we had someone lined up and that hasn't worked out. Are we talking to somebody?
We are meeting with somebody tomorrow who wants to remain nameless because he's in work at the moment. And I'm meeting somebody. He's coming down to the training ground to watch us work, watch us train. Very well qualified. I was going to say the right age there, but I'm not an ageism kind of guy. The right age. What is the right age? Somewhere between me and Craig Fagan. That doesn't work for me as far as I'm concerned. It's somebody who actually sits well with me, sits well with Craig, and fits into the grand scheme of things, the plan. It's a guy that's got to be prepared not just to develop players, but also work at the first team level and be able to handle the senior players that were brought in. A lot of the questions, I think, about the recruitment policy at the club will probably be negative and geared towards the fact that we signed probably 5 over 30 players. But I think players that have got that experience, coupled with the youth development at the football club, which has been outstanding right the way through the tenure of myself and name the 5 managers in between, under the tutelage of Ricky Duncan, has been outstanding. And them kids have got to come through. Ricky always banged on my door when I'm in the early days about, the pathway, and every player needs a pathway into your first team, and I agree with that. But that pathway can't be easy. If that pathway is easy, we'll have a poor first team. If that pathway is difficult and as 1 comes through every so often, or 2 comes through every so often, and you can be proud of that process, then couple that with the seniors that we've got at the football club. And I said it to them today. If you've got good seniors at a football club, your juniors will learn their trade the right way, and they'll suck everything from that group of players. And I think the players that were brought in, the Josh Coulsons, the Jimmy Dunns, the Abs Agogo, Reece Murphy, we've brought in a group of players that, 1, are good professionals, 2, know their way around the leagues, 3, understand that it's not just about the pretty game. Sometimes you have to roll your sleeves up and battle. And 4, you might have a young kid beside you that you can't veer off on the straight and narrow and start, doing the wrong things and think, you're leading by example, when that's not the example I want at the club. I want proper senior pros that are going to lead this group, even when I'm not there, even when Craig Fagan's not there. And I think that's key to the recruitment that we've done so far. But all in all, I'm pleased with the signings that were made, but I feel that we're still not quite there. We still need maybe 1 or 2, but I need a first team coach that can handle the group of players that we've got, because it'll be a challenge.
Brilliant. I'll hand over to some more questions. Simon, I know you've got some.
Evening there, Gaffer. Thanks a lot for coming along tonight. I know you're a busy man. You've already talked about how well the restructure's going, and the fact is we've got Tom in, and also you talked about Ricky. Could you go through actually how recruitment happens? Because surprisingly for me, Anton Robinson from the last regime was actually kept on. So how does the actual process work? It's a number of people have actually asked the trust whether we could ask this question. Do you advise Anton the type of player you're looking for? He identifies the players, and then you then say, yep, we want him. Then who does it go to after that? Does it go to Ricky, or does it go to Tom? And then does it then have to go to Ron at the final sign-off? Can you just talk us through how it all works?
Simon, it's not that any other question will be good. This is a brilliant question, because this is the key to any success that you get at any football club. If you get that recruitment side of things right, the policy of the club first and foremost, which is purely and solely the DNA of the manager and nobody else, and that's not being disrespectful of anybody else, it cannot be anybody else's. I've said this to Ron Martin when I first arrived, and I'll say it again now. I said it to everybody every chairman or owner that I've worked with, don't ever give me a Christmas present. And what I mean by that is, don't ever bring a player to the ground and say, oh, by the way, my mate's told him he's a good player, and there's a nice little present for you. Doesn't work. Period. It doesn't work. There'll be a falling out straight away. There'll be a miscommunication. It has to start and finish with the manager. Now, that doesn't make me a big person by any stretch of the imagination. What it does, it means I'm at the final part of the process. And you have to have a process. I know Tom is a key man with regards to process. You have to have a process. You have to have players that, one, first and foremost, have been identified. Two, have been watched. I'm talking about not videos. I don't mean videos. I don't mean somebody sticks a DVD in a computer and you see somebody playing football from a million miles away. Get to the place, see what they're all about, feel them, smell them, watch them, touch them if you can. Just find out everything you possibly can with regards to that player. And if you tick all of them boxes, then the process maybe will go to the director of football who will do negotiating. And then all of a sudden, the negotiation package and the history of the player has to be finalised with it. As near as damn it you can do with a process that finishes off with a medical. And I'm talking about Premier League standard medical if you can. And eventually, the chairman has to sign it off. It's his money, it's his club. I get all that. But I have to
you'll get the support from the chairman then, because that's a massive, big question.
Simon,
are you getting the support you actually require from Ron?
Simon, since I've came back to the club, I've had great support from Ron Martin. Absolutely fantastic support from Ron Martin. I don't envisage that to stop. I've got to just be the best salesman that he's ever sat in front of. It's as simple as that, and that in itself, you have to find a process. There's a lot of times I can go to a story, and I'll tell you, I like telling stories. The players will tell you this because I think that's relative to what we're talking about. I'll go back to my time as manager of Hull City in the Premier League, and we're in the second season of the Premier League, and I'm looking to improve the team. Now, bearing in mind, we were 1 to 20 favourites to be relegated that first year. We didn't get relegated. We finished 17th and we survived in the Premier League. Another 60, 70 million comes through the coffers. Great, fantastic. Do the maths if you want to do the maths. But I'm looking at the DNA of my team. I'm looking at how can we improve ourselves in the Premier League. So I'm taking us to the highest level now. And this is exactly the same process. There's nothing different. We scouted, if you want to call it scouted, Bobby Zamora. And Bobby Zamora was a player that I wanted to take us to the final third of the pitch and keep us there with quality. My assistant manager and my first team coach was Brian Horton and Steve Parkin. Steve Parkin is now assistant manager at Wrexham, coincidentally. And Steve Parkin and Brian Horton both disagreed with me. They both disagreed with me. They said, we want goals. We need goals. We don't need somebody who's... Bobby Zamora was about a 12 to 15 man. 12 to 15 goals a season. But I wanted somebody to take us to the final third and keep us there. And if he got his 10, 12, 15 goals, all well and good, but with that quality hold-up play, we will maybe get more goals from somewhere else. The two guys disagreed with me. My chairman said to me, you've got 50 grand, it would be nice for Ron Martin to say this to me, you've got 50 grand a week to spend on Bobby Zamora. So there was nothing in the way apart from just the decision. And I went with my two cohorts and we brought in Jan Vennegar of Hesseling and Jose Altidore, both who contributed to the 50 grand, okay? But both didn't contribute to us holding the ball up in the final third or even scoring as many goals as what Bobby Zamora did. And that was my biggest regret. And that season, okay, I left the club. I got the sack with 10 games to go. We weren't bottom of the league by any stretch of the imagination. We were still in the same position. We were 17th or 18th in the Premier League. But the whole process, the whole thought process of, yes, you all have to tick boxes. Yes, you all have to agree. No, you don't. The manager has the final say. And if Tom Lawrence, who's on this call, and Ron Martin disagreed with me, it would be from a financial perspective. It would be from a business perspective. But from a football perspective, I would have to sell my case. And I didn't sell my case to my 2 cohorts regarding Bobby Zamora. Do you get where I'm going with the story now? The sales pitch is not just a one man who owns the club. The owner of the club actually gave me 50 grand a week. So that wasn't the sales pitch. I still have to sell it to the people around me. And I didn't do a good enough sales pitch on Brian Horton and Steve Parton, who are both, I respect and highly regard, even now, regardless of where they are and what they're doing. So all of that is something that I believe that I've learned over the years, that buck stops with me. I'm the one who gets the sack. So therefore, I'm the one who says yes or no in the final say-so where that piece of the jigsaw is concerned. And if that makes a nice picture where the supporters are concerned, brilliant, because we're playing the right type of football and we're playing winning football and nobody questions recruitment then.
So where is, if it's right for me to keep going, Kerry?
Yeah, keep going.
Where are we with the recruitment process at the moment? Because obviously we've got a couple of trialists, 2 or 3 on the go at the moment, which you've commented on in the press and on the website, etc. And is there anywhere else you're looking to strengthen? Because you've already said on this call you need 1 or 2 more senior players, but obviously the trialists are probably, you know, more of the youngster type player. So where are you looking for at the moment? Obviously without naming names.
Sometimes, Simon, when a trialist comes through the door, and again I'm being open and honest here, you've got a relationship with, like Ricky Duncan's got a relationship with Norwich, and we want to grow that relationship and grow them relationships. You know, the Brentford game last night, they want to get a relationship going with us because they've got 23s coming out their years, and every so often you get a 23 that comes your way, and maybe it doesn't cost you anything in terms of wages, and therefore your recruitment policy at your club hasn't been impounded or hasn't been impacted financially. So therefore you get another one come through the door. But there's always a financial impact. There's always, you know, because you've got to feed these kids, you've got to house them, there's always a financial impact. So when it comes down to it, certain trialists, i.e. Matt Dennis, has been an ongoing scenario. Matt has wanted to be here. He wants to apply his trade at the first team level. He's delighted with the environment. He's delighted with the coaching that he's getting. He's going back with positive vibes and positive messages to Norwich. And the head of the management of players that are leaving Norwich is a good friend of mine and a good friend of Rick's, and he's all for it. So Matt Dennis is in a good place. We just had 1 or 2 little problems with regards to insurance and stuff like that, little glitches that hopefully have been smoothed over, and I think maybe Tom might be able to answer that one. And the same with Hamzat, a relationship with Les Ferdinand when Les played for me at Bolton Wanderers. And it's great to have these relationships so close to us, certainly in terms of the geographical side of things. But again, having a squad of 24, 25 is all well and good, but if it's 11 or 12, 13, maybe 14 senior pros and the rest of them are kids, it's how many games you're going to get out of them kids. How many games, say, for instance, Tiralegri will give us, because he's going from being a kid to a man. You're hoping that Tiralegri is going to get 25, 30 games out here, and that's a massive... He's through then. He's through. Louis Walsh, people like that, the ones that you already know. But the agreement we've got with QPR is Hamzat is a work in progress. He's a process. What we think we can help him contribute to his career, and then maybe go back to QPR. But if not, give him a career somewhere. I said to Les, he's an impact sub at this moment in time, and I'm not going overboard with regards to that. I've said the same thing to Hamzat, 6'5", giant of a striker, comes off the bench, puts a little bit of fear into the opposition. Sometimes he won't be on the bench. That's because we've got a 25-man squad, and maybe there's a better option somewhere down the line. Where Matty Dennis is concerned, he's got pace. He's got pace that'll scare the living daylights out of defenders at this level. I went to see Kings Lynn the other night, and very interesting game. Massively impressed with the way they try to play football. So we've got to work out where the weaknesses are, which we hopefully will do over the next 2 weeks, and get a good foothold in the competition from day one. But the seniors that you're talking about, the final pieces in the jigsaw, I think the business end, which scared me when I first arrived at the club, when I'd come into a club with nearly 40 games. In fact, it was 40 games in your belt and 24 goals. You guys must have been sitting on the touchline going, how are we going to win a game of football? If I'm a coach on the sideline, I'll be thinking exactly the same. Therefore, my work starts on the training ground. How are we going to win a game of football with 24 goals in 40 games? It was beyond me. So now, the major part of the recruitment is not just shore up. And you know, guys, you know I like clean sheets. You know I like to keep a clean sheet in a tight back 4-3-5, whatever I want to play. But you've got to have it out. You've got to have people who can score goals. And I think Rhys Murphy will be, I'm fingers crossed, will be one of the signings of the season because of his ability at this level. He knows his way around the football pitch. He's a clever player. He knows his way around this league. And hoping, even if we don't get a number 9, that Sam Dolby will provide a good partnership, if not Matt Rush, if not Hamzat. So we've got options, but we don't want to completely flood the place with 5 number 9s and 5 number 7s, 5 11s, because apart from the headaches I'm going to have, you're going to waste people's time, and I don't want to waste people's time. And the other part is, all you guys on this Zoom call have all got opinions, and everybody will pick a different number 11 to me or a different number 9 to me. I want to make my job easier if I can do by winning games of football.
So just on the last bit then, in the press, you actually said about that you were looking to see a player last Sunday that would raise eyebrows. I've been asked to quote that as well. How's that actually going along? You know, are we going to see anything happening this week at all?
His current wage actually raised my eyebrows, so maybe there's a little bit of work to be done. But yes, it would raise people's eyebrows if we can manage to get him in. But again, that now is he wants to come, and that's probably it'll be purely a financial decision, which you can fully understand. I think where Ron Martin's concerned, he's backed the club for a number of years now, and he's watched back-to-back relegations, and he can't be feeling too best pleased about the work that his previous management teams have put forward. But hopefully that'll all stop, the hemorrhaging will stop, and as I say, we can just turn this tank around and point it in the right direction.
I've got one last question. It's on recruitment before Kerry can hand it over to someone else.
That's against the law.
Yeah.
No more questions. You've got one last question.
One last question, is that are we actually holding any more hope out for Elvis?
For Elvis, it's a strange one, isn't it? It's funny because we've probably committed 8 years to this lad, and for him, I'm disappointed in Elvis, not in his agent. His agent will be in his ear. It's obvious. The agent, all he can see is a wage packet. All he can see is a handout from a player. And don't get me wrong, that's the nature of the beast. I'm not going to, I've got nothing against agents. I just know that that's the nature of the beast. And if Elvis is listening to an agent as opposed to listening to Ricky Duncan or Phil Brown, who's looked after him for the last 6, 7, 8 years, then he's a foolish lad. He should have got his, and you might be thinking straight away, hold on a second, what about Harry Kane? Okay, take it to the top end. Harry Kane's now holding out because somebody's gone back on the word. That hasn't come out public who, and that hasn't come out public about the conversation that they've had. But Elvis will tell you, if he doesn't, he's an honest boy. I know he's an honest boy. If he doesn't tell you to his face, if you interview him or do anything with him, we've looked after this lad for 6, 7, 8 years, and he's decided to down tools on us, having been offered a contract. The contract offer that we made him by the law of the football world only has to be £1 more than the previous year. Yeah. And then we are entitled to compensation. Now, that makes pure business sense. That's simply business. There's nothing you can do about that. That just opens negotiations now with Elvis and his agent. And they decided, no, we don't want that. We want to go and sample a field, try and test the field. They get Orient on the go. And then what happens? Orient then sign another player because we put a price tag on this player. Well, hold on a second. Surely the agent is responsible for quoting some kind of price tag to Orient. We've got to quote some kind of deal here saying that, well, you've got 6, 7, 8 years invested in this lad. There will be a fee. And if he's not done that to Orient, and it's, you know, Elvis is being represented by the wrong person. Simple as that.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Phil.
Yes,
Karen?
thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Ken.
Yeah, following on from what you've just been saying, Phil, is there any particular positions you're looking to strengthen, or is there any, and if so, what particular qualities you're looking for in that and a player to fill that?
I think I'm looking at the left-hand side centre-back, if anything, Ken. If I did want to play a 3 centre-back system, which I think is becoming vogue, but it's also a good opportunity to get 2 or 3 strikers up the field to play and put a bit of pressure on the opposition. It's a good pressing system. It's also a good footballing system. It would be a left-footed centre-back. I tried Ralphie there last night, and I was delighted for the boy. I was delighted for him that he, you know, I give him 5 minutes at Dartford, and the smile on his face after the game was just, it was, you know, the whole thing was palpable in the changing room afterwards. You couldn't believe how he was feeling. It was just oozing out his skin. And then to get 45 minutes, hopefully, Tom Clifford unfortunately went down, so he got 60 minutes at left-hand side centre-back. He sort of brought to my attention that maybe I can arrest that situation. He can play left-back and play left-hand side centre-back. He can also play left wing-back. So he covers a multitude of positions all down the left-hand side. But that doesn't stop me from looking, Ken. If somebody, you know, big, strong left footer with a bit of pace, can play, hopefully, with scope for hire. All of them boxes need to be ticked with regards to recruitment. I went to the Kingsland Peterborough game on Tuesday night, and I had a good conversation with Barry Fry at half-time. There's one at Peterborough that might come our way. But again, the kids, you know, 1 or 2 kids that come out of their academy, and I don't want to be somebody's guinea pig, you know. I don't want to be, oh yeah, take him for 44 games and he only plays 2. That's no good to me, you know, because invariably if they're not in the team, it's because we're not winning or we're not keeping clean sheets or whatever. But left-hand side centre-back would have been ideal for me. Hobbo had a decent year last year. John White suits that system and position. And Josh Colston's just been the only disappointment really of pre-season, where he's had a little broken toe, which is a pain in the backside, to tell you the truth, for a lad his size, to be immobilised by a little broken toe. But I know what he feels like, and he can't get out in the training ground, but he's been out this week, and hopefully we'll see some part of him either on Saturday or Tuesday before the season starts. So that's my biggest dilemma at the moment, the centre-half role. You know, if Josh Colston comes to the party, maybe not so much of a dilemma, but left-hand side. And then maybe a big striker, I don't know, there's enough number 9s flying around these days. I've got my eye on 1 or 2. But Sam Dolby impressed me last night as well. I thought he held the ball up well. But if you look at the centre-halves of Brentford, I don't think they are atypical National League centre-halves. They were young lads who were easily manipulated and pushed off the ball physically, whereas your centre-halves in the National League, as you well know, will be big, strong brutes who are going to come through the back here most of the time and get away with things that you can't get away with in the AFL or the Premier League. So there's the backbone of the team has always been important to me. But you know, we've got enough pace. We've got enough, I think, out wide at the moment. Maybe if push came to shove, another one. But you know, I'd be all my Christmas is coming at once if I got 3 in. If I get 1 in, I'll be delighted. If that becomes 2, I might be buying Ron Martin a Christmas present.
Fantastic.
Okay. Just following on from it, you've mentioned, you know, you've been watching other teams you know, where we played, i.e. Kings Lynn. Do you anticipate changing any style or looking for any tactical changes for this National League?
I've been impressed with the league. If truth be known, Ken, I must admit, at the start of my career, would I ever consider coming to the National League to manage? And you're probably saying no there and then, but I'll tell you what, there's some there's some good people there. There's some good managers. There's some good players. The division itself, I think football's going in a new direction, which is play, play, play. Born out of watching Manchester City, born out of watching Liverpool, born out of watching England in the Euros. And everybody looks like they want to play, but the lower down you go, the more, the reason why they're there, the confidence levels are a little bit fragile or brittle, and they lose confidence in their own ability when a manager's telling them to play in the wrong areas. And what I mean by the wrong areas, in their own penalty box, in your own 6-yard box, which I witnessed the other night. So from a tactical point of view, there'll be some teams that will be doing that, and there'll be some teams that will be crash bang wallop. There'll be some teams that are playing second ball football. There'll be some teams that are just physical and working towards set pieces. But all of that, I mean, with a first team coach, hopefully he'll come in. Me, him, Craig Fagan, Anton Robinson. Obviously we've got an analyst department as well, a young lad that gets video footage, etc., etc. So we'll be well versed at what's going to come out of the opposition's changing room. If we get it wrong at any stage, which I did, and I need to say this, I did against Colchester when we got beat last season, and it was down to wrong information I got from the analyst at the time, which was from the previous regime. That's how important analysts are these days. You know, they really have to give you the right information so you can plan your team. And if something changes on the Saturday or something changes on the Tuesday night, then well played to the opposition. But in the main, I think we need a couple of systems. We need a couple of players for each position. We need understanding. We need clarity. We need all the things that every manager, regardless of whether in the Premier League or in the National League, every manager is trying to get and give the players. Because if you've got clear minds going across the white line, you've got good players. It's as simple as that. I look at our players and I trust quite a few of them. There's one or two that still have to earn my trust. But they're normally at the business end of the pitch where they're more flighty, they try things, you know, and sometimes it doesn't come off. I think the lower down you go, they don't probably pay enough care and attention in the final third that we need to. Because if we pay enough care and attention in the final third, we'll hurt the opposition with the quality that we brought in. Does that answer your question, Ken?
Yeah, it does. So do you, going on what you've just said there, how close would you be now to having in your head what 11 you'll be looking to start against King's Lynn? Just having you got it already in your mind?
I'm fairly close. I think come the 20, not the first, come the 20th of August, I'll have 100% clarity, but I'm fairly close. I've probably got 7, 8 definites at the moment. 9 and 10 will come probably in the final week, and 11 will come on the morning of the game. But that's normal. But we've all got our, not favourites, but we've all got our players that we can rely upon for certain things. I think one of the things that I like getting out there is I've got a senior, if you want to call it management group, I've got a senior management group within the changing room who give me information when I need it, and then therefore I impart information to them, and it's a give or take scenario. Imparting information with regards to the plan of attack a couple of weeks beforehand. I think all people these days, the modern day way forward is without a shadow of a doubt, is give as much information as you possibly can and let people make their own mistakes, as it were. I think it's the world that we live in now is become remarkable as a place where I think it's become a little bit more selfish, and that selfishness we have to drive out of a team environment as much as we possibly can, and make sure that when we do cross the line, we do cross the line, not just individuals, you know. But you know what I'm like, Ken, I'm all about the team. I'm all about the work ethic of the team. I'm all about the understanding and the knowledge that I can give the team, and then let them do it themselves. Let them make their own mistakes. You know, I'll go back to my time before when the likes of Adam Barrett was in the team. You know, even Barry Coors when we go back a few years. You know, players that you can put out there and probably rely on nearly 100% that they're going to give their all for the badge, for themselves, for the shirt, for you. And if you've got enough of them leading by example, then you've got a great chance.
And you've got to pick a new leader.
That's a difficult one. Really is. Really is. I give it to Ralphie last night because John put the armband on as we were going out. Now, I don't name me captain until the last week of the pre-season. But John put the armband on just out of like normality. You know, JD, him, you know, they're all there. I said, John, give the armband to Ralphie. He's been out the game 2 years. Give the arm. Straight away it came off. Ralphie took the team out. He's nearly in tears in the change room. That'll do for me all day long.
Absolutely. Thanks, Phil.
Is anyone else?
Somebody else have a chance.
Anyone else got any more questions before we ask the obvious one? The obvious one. Sorry, Jim. One. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I just are you working to a fixed transfer budget, and is that related to the delay in signing Ricky Holmes and the fact that you've released Simeon Akinola?
Sim, let me address the Sim one first, and I'll go on to Ricky and then the budget. But Sim Akinola, I've sat down with probably on 3, 4, 5 occasions at the end of last season. I came out publicly and said he wasn't my cup of tea, and that's because I would never say that publicly if I hadn't said it to him personally. I said it to him personally when we shook hands, and at the end of the season, I just said to him, get your agent to find yourself a club. The reason I was saying that is quite simple. I'm after players that are going to commit to me, to the badge, to the cause next year. And in them 6 games that we had, Sim Akinola led the line in the Exeter game, and he came off as a quick striker. He came off with 40 metres of high intensity work. And he knew full well what I was all about. You know, it wasn't if I was imparting a little bit of information on him too late there. He knew what I was all about. Hard work in the final third, you know, working the opposition, but when we've got the ball, also working the quality of the ball. And he came off with 40 metres, and I pointed it out to him, and it didn't go anywhere. It didn't raise, it didn't fall. He just wasn't committed, in my opinion. And that's all that mattered. If I was going to keep the job, if Sim wanted me at the football club, he was going to have to step up the ante with regards to work rate. But that was all public knowledge and normal conversation I would have on a one-to-one basis. But nowadays you can't have them on a one-to-one basis. So, you know, I have my backroom staff, Craig Fagan I'm talking about, we're sitting talking to Sim, and there was lots of things to talk about, but at the same time, unless he upped the ante with regards to work rate, he wasn't going to be playing for me, and that didn't change. So, you know, I released him at the end of the year, and as I said to his agent, get him a club. His agent made no real effort, because he's one of the highest earners at the club, made no real effort to move him on. Ricky Duncan has worked tirelessly, and I mean tirelessly, on a daily basis, talking to his agent, talking to the player, to say there is no place for you here. We're bringing another number 9 in, which we did do in Sam Dalby. Still no change of any kind of emotion or whatever. So I'm probably going a little bit too public on this, because at the end of the day, it happens in the world of football. Manager comes in, doesn't quite fancy a player. Regardless, now I forgot Ron Martin's backing on getting rid of the player, or Ron Martin didn't back me on getting rid of the player. I wouldn't all of a sudden start liking this player. He would still have to work hard to get him into my team. If that was the deal, that's the deal I'm giving him, not the financial one. The deal is, if you want to be in my team, you've got to work harder. So that's what's happened. Sims came back. He's trained with a group of 23s. He's been exceptional with regards to his behaviour. He's been exceptional with regards to the way he's conducted himself in front of the 23s, which I didn't have any doubt about whatsoever. But again, it remains that I wanted to find another club. And his agent's still not making too much of an effort. So that could be a long-winded thing. That's something that happens in football, I'm afraid. And if there's any Sim Akinola supporters there, my apologies, but, you know, if you had applied for the job, you might have got it ahead of me, and Sim would have been playing. But I'm not being facetious there. I'm being honest. Secondly, where Ricky Holmes is concerned, I love him. I love him to bits. I think he's brilliant for us. I think he's a local boy who will run through a brick wall for Southend United. I've always been against him as a manager, and he's been the biggest pain in the backside where the opposition are concerned. He's always caused me a problem. He's been a thorn in my side. He's been a thorn in my plans. He always pops up in the wrong area at the right time, or the right area at the wrong time. He's a nuisance. And I wanted that nuisance at the club last season, which we had. It was a brilliant last 6 games, and he broke his ankle. And he played on a broken ankle, and I couldn't believe what he was doing for me. So consequently, I've wanted Ricky at the club, and then I put it to the chairman, and the chairman's a little bit wary of it having. And you've got to understand this: when you're a football owner, you're a football club owner, and you're paying a player a lot of money to be injured, and I'm including Nathan Ralph in that. And that was, that's key when you think about it. Whatever Nathan Ralph was on in terms of finances, he was out of action for 2 years, and somebody was footing that bill. Now that is one hell of a commitment to a football club. And I'm just using Nathan Ralph as an example here, because I actually said to Nathan, it's payback time for us now. Surely you've got to now commit to the cause. You've got to commit to the cause for what Ron Martin's done for you. And I think that makes sense to me. So when Ron's been scarred to a certain extent by that experience, he doesn't want that again. So consequently, where Simak Enola, who can play, who's not raising a gallop, so not Simak Enola, I went away from that. Ricky Holmes, he wanted Ricky Holmes to be fully tested in terms of medical, in terms of fitness levels, in terms of everything you possibly can. And he's got all the boxes ticked, and fingers crossed, I'm hoping in the next 24 hours we can get a deal done. And if that's the case, you're the first one to hear that, but as you well know, things can go the wrong way. I'm just fingers crossed that Ricky does put pen to paper tomorrow, and we'll have something to announce. But as I say, it's a financial burden on the chairman if Ricky breaks down in the first game and he's of no use to us for the next year. I feel responsible for that. So I've got to be 1,000,000% correct in my assessment of Ricky Holmes. Does that make sense to you guys?
It does, Phil. I assume that Ricky would then be part of that leadership group within the changing room as well, basically on his experience, etc.
He's the devil in the groups. Yeah, he's definitely involved. I mean that in the right way, Simon.
Jim, have you got anything else, Jim? Jim, anything else?
Sorry, unmuted. No, that's fine for me. Thank you. Great answer.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Is there any other further questions for Phil before I ask the obvious one?
Can I ask one, Kerry?
Of course you can, Gary.
Just wanted Phil's view really on we've got a squad situation where we've got a lot of 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and we've also got a lot of 30, 31, 32. Not too many in the middle. I think you made a mention of it briefly when you came in at the end of last season. I noticed that 3 of about 5 or 6 that we've got in that middle group are Nathaniel George, Akinola, who obviously looks like he's on his way, and Ferguson, brought in by previous management. I wondered if you were kind of wrestling with that situation a little bit, and whether you were actively trying to remedy that at all.
It's a good question, Jamie, because a lot of people have a viewpoint on previous managers' regimes and who are the good players for them, and does the new manager agree with them. There's lots of things to like about the 3 players that you mentioned. The ability levels, the technical ability levels of them 3 players are quite high up in terms of the squad. But again, I go back to the work rate. The technical side of it is all well and good, but if you're not prepared to put sweat on the shirt, blood on the shirt, if you like, if you're not prepared to do that, then the technical side is completely a waste of time. I think you hire and fire on attitude, don't you? Hire on technicality, fire on attitude if the attitude's not right. But if you've got the whole package, you probably wouldn't be at Southend. You wouldn't be at this level. The technical side of Nathaniel George was something I liked, but he drifted out the games more than he was in the games. I'm working on Fergie in exactly the same way, because I think Fergie's biggest problem is when you see him, you go, wow, and then you don't see it enough. So I'm working on the fact that I want to see it more. And again, I'm storytelling. I always remember going to see seeing Brendan Rodgers when he first got the. If you can hear noises in the background, I do apologise. I just became a miniature dachshund breeder, and I've got 3 puppies in the background, so apologies. But I'll go back to me. I'll go back to me. Now you can hear them, can't you? My questions with regard to Brendan Rodgers, when I first went into Liverpool to have a look around the training ground and watch him work, and he sat me down with a flip chart that he first came into the changing room with, and it was a one-on-one conversation he had with Steve Gerrard. Now, Steve Gerrard's one of the best midfield players that we've ever produced in England, certainly where Liverpool's concerned, and it looks like he's going to go on to be a great manager, which is fantastic news for English football, I think. And Steve Gerrard only had something like 35 to 40 what he called interventions in the game. And when he left Brendan Rodgers' guidance, he had over 120. So Brendan Rodgers wanted him involved more on the ball because he knew that Liverpool would be a better team. So you always remember Stevie Gerrard getting involved, little pass here, great shot, nothing else. Great shot. But you remember the 3 or 4 great shots. He hit the crossbar, he scored a goal, whatever. You always remember them parts because they're the impact of a game. But Brendan Rodgers wanted Stevie Gerrard to be constantly on the ball with his ability. So going from 35 to 40 up to 120, 3 times as much. You cannot believe how much impetus and how much of a career he made for Stevie Gerrard towards the end. Now that's what I'm after, and I'm not putting any pressure on where Fergie's concerned, saying I'm turning to Stevie Gerrard overnight, but Fergie has got great ability and he needs to be on the ball more than what James done, than what Abzagogo, than what Harry Phillips, than what Louis Gard, any of the midfield, the centre midfield. You've got to dictate the game. And certainly where the Kings Lynn game is concerned, you've got 2 midfield players, 2 blonde midfield players they've got in there who want to be on the ball all the time. And if they've got that, then we need to have 3 that want to be on the ball all the time, and we'll have more possession in them. So I'm just narrowing it down. I know you're talking about the previous regime and who they brought in and who they liked, and strangely enough, I don't like him, and I do like him, and I don't like him. There'll be common denominators all the way along, but there'll be certain players that I just don't take to because they're not working hard enough. And if they did, wow, what a career they'd have. Is it Jamie?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It was kind of about the squad balance more than anything, more than individuals.
Sorry, let me go into that, Jamie. I'm all about that ABC system. I don't know if you've ever heard of the ABC system. The A is 23 to 29. 23, you're through the 23s, you're now going into men's football, you've been there in terms of your apprenticeship. Yes, there'll be some development kids coming through at 20, 21, 22 who are in your first team 100%. But when you're through at 23, you've got 100 games under your belt, you know what the game's all about. 23 to 29, you're now applying your trade at one of the highest levels that you'll probably achieve. Over the 30 mark is the C system. That's an A. The B is the younger ones. If you get some good young ones and you get some good old ones, and they crush this 23 to 29 mark, that's where the majority of your team should lie. We're outside that box at the moment, but in an ideal world, I would like that to be 50%, 25-25 either side. But if it goes 40-40-20, as long as you've got a good balance in terms of age, I'll keep going back to it. If you've got good seniors, you'll have good juniors. So if I can get 2 or 3 into that 23 to 29 box, I think we'll be a better team long term.
Cheers, Phil.
Brilliant. Thank you. One last question for me. So how do you think we're going to get on come the end of the season? There seems to be a view with some supporters that we'll walk this league. There seems to be a more rounded view from those of us that have seen the standard of football at this league that actually consolidate and push on is where we're going to go. What's your view?
My view is I don't want to have a look at the league. I don't want to take a look at the league and then find our feet. I want to hit the ground running if we possibly can. So I'm thinking the first 4 or 5 games are going to be a foothold in the competition. And what I mean by a foothold in the competition, everybody looks at league tables. That doesn't necessarily mean to say after 5 games we're top, but we've got a foothold in the competition. You've looked at performances, you relate performances to results, and then 4 or 5 results can give you an impression, an idea. And always bear in mind that there's no windows, is there? Everything's always open right the way through the season. So the transition of bringing players into the football club and letting players go is going to be important as well. That rotation of players in and out the club. If I stick with a sort of a 23, 24-man squad and the rest are periphery, meaning they're 23 players, under 23 players, if I stick to that 23, 24-man squad, I've got to do it from a financial point of view and a football point of view, meaning if I bring one in, I've got to let one go. So that having that rotation, the ability to rotate players during the course of the season is a new challenge when you don't have a window at the start and a window at the end, or a window in the middle, whichever the case may be. Learning that part of the game, again, it's a new learning curve for me. But I do believe we will be prepared. I do believe we'll be strong, physically fit, being able to run over teams, hopefully. And the capabilities that were brought into the football club from a technical point of view, I'm looking forward to watching. I'm not going to make any big, bold predictions, but we will be a target on, there'll be a target on our backs. There'll be a dartboard on everybody's back at Southend, whether you're a supporter, whether you're a manager, whether you're a player, because they'll be aiming for it. And we've got to be able to stand up to that. We've got to be able to handle that. One of the best things I've heard recently when I was at the Kings Lynn game was they've raised the level of the capacity at Kings Lynn because of the 900 supporters that we're taking to Kings Lynn. Now that's music to my ears. If there's 3, 4, 5,000 at the game, we're putting a marker down, one from an away point of view, away standpoint, meaning everybody wants to see us, but everybody wants to beat us. Everybody wants to hurt us. And we've got to stand up against that as a collective. And if we don't, if we veer off and go in with different factions and he's not good enough, he's not good enough, the manager's rubbish, this, that and the other, we have to stand tight. And if we do, then forget about the dartboards. I'm not bothered. Anybody can take a pop at me. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We'll stand strong. And I think a push after Christmas, who knows where it takes us. But I want to get a foothold in the competition. And that's the first 4 or 5 games. So we can have another Zoom call after that, and then you can slate me after that if you want to.
We will take you up on the Zoom call. We do these every 3 weeks, and you're always welcome to come and talk to us about the direction of the football club. I'd like to thank you for coming in and being as open and honest as I've seen you before. You're more than welcome to listen to the rest of the conversation, which is more about the supporters' view of certain aspects within the club. One of which hopefully will see us be back in the North Bank for some home games. But more than welcome to stay. Thank you very much for your time as always, Phil.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the season.
We shall try to. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. So, Tom, if you're okay for a couple of minutes, we'll just put a few questions your way.
Yes, far away, Gary.
Cheers. The two that I've been asked to ask, number one is, do we have any development on the North Bank?
Well, I've been working on it. So it's the issue stems to the fact in that north-east corner, the flow rates we're allowed 712 fans in through that north-east corner. That in itself will probably be sufficient for most visiting clubs. However, Rule 10.2 of the National League rules says the away club shall be entitled to 10% of the total number of tickets available. And the total amount of tickets available is going to be, 11,500, 12,000. And therefore, we need to offer about 1,200 to visiting supporters, which causes us a problem because if they are entering and exiting via the northeast, which they must on any view, I think, to make it work, then we're not going to be able to tick that box. I have spoken to the National League about whether or not there is any flexibility on that point. They've been non-committal, but they are going to come back to me on it.
Okay.
Also, just so you're aware, I've spoken to the police about if we can get over this hurdle. Their views have talked about whether or not we need to have barriers in place and so on. They're not keen on barriers. They'd rather have netting and stewards and marshals and so on. That's only a loose conversation I've had with them, nothing formal, and it would have to go to the SAG, and it would have to be discussed internally by the police as well. I have asked for it to be put on the agenda for the next SAG meeting, which is the 5th of September, by which time we would have worked up the proposal, which we've already been discussing with the chairperson of the SAG and the police, and I would have had an answer from the National League on whether or not we can get over this rule 10.2.
Fantastic, thank you. And the second question is one that's come up today, is the ticketing arrangements that Kings Lynn have put in place were a little bit odd and a little bit different, I think it's fair to say. There is some confusion around segregation and non-segregation. Some of us are working on the basis that the terrace is ours and the seats aren't segregated, but there seems to be other things we're reading that says the terrace isn't segregated and the seats are, which, if you've ever been to Kings Lynn, it's a bit of a worry. So what's their position?
I've not been to Kings Lynn. I was under the impression that there was no segregation taking place, which is a issue which I have raised with via the police and so on, as something that should be considered at their end. It's not something we can influence for, but I've certainly raised it as something which should be reviewed.
Right, thank you. That was the two questions I have. I'll do the usual and just go around. I'll start with Michael. You're on mute, mate.
Nothing from me.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yeah, I've just got a couple, please. Just over a week to go now until Meet the Blues Day, Tom. Are there any details you can share with supporters at this point regarding plans for the day?
Yeah, I can do. We had a meeting today actually just to finalise the plans, and I've got them out here. Yeah, so I mean, I've got a story will be going out in the next, well, either tomorrow or Monday, just to say what's going on. But stall holders arrive at 9:30. It kicks off at 10:30. We then got a first team training session at 11 o'clock. There'll be various other training sessions going on. There's a walking football game with some ex-pros. There's a Q&A session with the management. There's feedback tents. There's a supporter hub. We've got various community stalls and charities who are attending. There will be the usual player signings. They're going to be within the vicinity of the Shrimpers Trust tent, either side. We're going to try and avoid the massive queues, and we are going to have to do it in a COVID conscious way, because obviously we need to protect the players and so on. There'll be bouncy castles. There's something called a gladiator. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it sounds exciting. There's face painting. There's a vaccination van coming, dominoes, doyos, donuts. There'll be a barbecue and a beer tent.
Okay, good stuff. Another question, just leading on to that. I understand that the Junior Blues scheme is going to be relaunched, and that the intention is perhaps to do that as part of Meet the Blues Day.
That's correct.
Is there anything that's going to be going out to supporters in advance of Meet the Blues Day? Because obviously it would be good to get the youngsters and the parents on board so they're ready for the off.
Yeah, the news story about Meet the Blues with a PDF map and so on, which can be downloaded, will be going out either tomorrow or Monday.
Oh,
I can make sure that there is specific reference to Junior Blues, etc., and encourage people to make their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Terry.
Yes, Leslie. Jay?
From me.
Thank you. Jay?
No, nothing from me.
But Richard?
Nothing really. I was going to say just one sort of general one for Tom. How are you finding a job? Is it what you thought it was going to be? And are you
I'm
enjoying it?
No, I'm enjoying it. There's lots to do, lots of changes to be made. I've got lots of new ideas. People are embracing them in the main. It's all going well. The business plan is creeping closer to being finalised. Patrick's back from annual leave next week, so I need a few more numbers off of him. We're working hard to get the stadium ready for the 28th. We hope that when people come back on the 28th, I know people are back for the friendlies, but on the 28th they'll notice a difference in terms of food and bev offerings and, liquor paint around the place. And we're all working hard, and I'm enjoying it. Thanks, Richard.
Excellent.
So do we have onions on the burgers now then?
Onions will be an optional extra.
So it's a long-running gag.
We've got extraction problems.
Yeah. Jim?
Is there any news on the Matchday ticket pricing?
Yes, it's 18 and 20 in advance. I've got the number. I'll give it to you now. 2 seconds. So the advance prices: adults 18, seniors 13, student 13, young person 13, emergency services 13, disabled 13, junior 8, child 8 and under 3.
Good. Thank you.
That's the in advance prices. On the day is £2 extra.
Paul?
No, nothing from me.
Cheers, Dan.
No, I've just muted myself again. Apologies for earlier. I don't know what happened, but hopefully you can all hear me properly now. Couple of questions. COVID protocol for the upcoming season. I know that the Premier League and some EFL clubs have implemented new rules. Will the rules be very much similar to what have been communicated to the fans through the friendlies, or will that be changing?
No, I mean we are encouraging people to wear face masks and social distance, etc. There will be some measures in to help with flow rates and to try where we can to limit the possible transmission of COVID. We'll still be operating a red zone for the players and staff, etc. So we are still taking it's not responsibility in such that there's a strict, we strictly need to do it, but we are very conscious of the fact that we want fans to feel safe. We want those who are umming and ahhing about returning to know that we are doing everything we can to make it as safe as possible. But of course, COVID's not going away.
Of course. No, that's the first thing. Second thing, I know you said about stadium preparation for the 28th. Is there still plans in place for fans to help with that?
There's a question. I'd like fans to help with that. If there's a willingness for fans to come along and help, I mean, in the car park, for example, it could do with the liquor paint, the gates and so on. The entrance via the tunnel into the far post bar needs a liquor paint, and around the ground generally, there's places which could do with a liquor paint. So it still is on the radar if there is an appetite for it.
I mean, I don't know what the take-up was for the training ground.
It was 2 people on Saturday and 1 person on Sunday.
Oh, that's disappointing.
That is
plus me.
Yeah.
Can I just say though, there was about 17 or 18 people that actually emailed and said they were going to go.
Oh, okay.
You know, I know people sometimes have other things, but that's quite a high number that didn't. Didn't turn up.
Sadly, I couldn't make that one. But
no, I know people are busy and they've got lots on, and I get it. But it's as Paul said, we were expecting a few more, so we had all of the rollers to go in a plan, and it didn't quite unfold. But we have got the paint on the walls. The new floor is being finalised tomorrow, so that's great. And then the next thing is to get some gym equipment, some new gym equipment in there, so the guys have got a much better facility to train in and also to recoup in, which is the thing I was ever so keen to, give them the best possible chance to recover from their injuries and so
on. Okay. What's the other one I was going to say? We've covered North Bank. Something that was brought up to me last night, and I have a feeling I already know the answer to this. Drinking in stands. I know it's different for, I don't know if there's different rules for National League or not.
We won't be having alcohol in the stands.
Okay.
Yeah,
I had a feeling that would be the answer. Final one for me, season cards, 2,800, isn't it, as of today?
And there was a queue. That was, I think we're probably quite a bit in excess of that, because there's a queue coming out the ticket office today.
That's
so it's going well.
One of the things, I don't know if it was solved or not, I've certainly not seen anything, but finance, is there options in place?
There isn't. We've made inquiries, but because the limited amount of uptake we've had on that historically, it's not financially viable for the providers we've contacted to provide that finance option. So we have tried to get finance, but because the relatively small numbers we're talking about, they've declined to offer it for us. But that's nothing to do with us as a club financially or anything. It's just you're talking about less than 50 people, and it's just not worth them going through the admin process to set up an account with us and so on.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's it from me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dan. And finally, Simon.
Yeah, hi, Tom. I've just got a couple of things for you. Player sponsorship. A couple of people have emailed me regarding nothing about compensations for benefits missed over the last 2 seasons. People haven't had renewal invitations, but you're also advertising player sponsorship on the club website.
Yeah, we discussed this at the liaison meeting, and a draft proposal was discussed at that meeting. Vis-a-vis compensation. That included some hospitality being thrown in and so on. I haven't been leading that actually, so I can't tell you where that got to. But we have worked up a proposal for some feedback. But I shall pick that up tomorrow.
Is there a timescale? I know the answer to this, but I've got to ask it anyway. A timescale for the shirt for those who chose to donate? The special bespoke one.
Yeah. So
when will it be available, and will it be similar to the current kits?
The bespoke shirt, it's my intention that everybody should get it. We will think of there's 2 things. First of all, we're looking at doing the 3rd kit in autumn. Yeah. The bespoke shirt which will be a bespoke shirt, but the COVID refund related shirt, it's my intention to give that to fans no later than Christmas, sort of as a Christmas present. We're in discussions with Macron on that. They're just setting up the store. We've had no designs on that yet, which was something I was going to ask for a bit of feedback on, if anybody has any views on what we should do on that. Otherwise, I can just let Macron's team come up with something. But my intention is that you have it no later than Christmas.
Fantastic. On the subject of shirt, we've had some feedback on the badge looks awful on the home shirt. I've got to admit, I was at a game last night and I saw an awful lot of them flying out the shop. So that's feedback I was asked to give you.
Thank you.
The away one's probably the better one this year. And also as well though, is there any chance of having card machines in the bars in the West? I know I was in the far post yesterday and obviously there was no problem at all. It's just that a lot of people now, because of COVID and the way things are going, is that they're more likely to use a contactless card rather than cash.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think it's actually the kit. We had our post-match meeting this morning, and the fact that we haven't got the ability to take card payments across the kiosks and some of the bars is an issue. I don't fully understand why we can't do it. So I have a cable guy coming in tomorrow at 10:30 and an IT guy coming in at 4 to explain to me what it is we need to do in order to be, well, go cashless, or at least be able to take payments via PDQ machines across the ground.
Excellent. And lastly, just on a positive thing, because I know Ron always likes us to end on a positive note, the new Fossett's Farm website has been launched. So do we know when we're supposed to go in front of council, or is that more of a question for Uncle Ron?
I think it's a question for Ron. I have spoken to Ron on this topic, and he is very positive. He's working in tandem with the council, and it's all looking good. As for when it will go before the council, I think that's a question for Ron, but I would have thought it's relatively soon.
Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate your time.
Not at all. Thank you, Simon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. I think that's it for questions, and we've overrun by 20 minutes as well. So again, Tom, as always, thanks for your time on these.
Not at all.
Our next one's due in 3 weeks' time, which I'll make the 26th, and Paul Fitz will be in the chair for that.
Kerry, sorry, just one thing with that. I may be out of the country, and I'm the holder of the Zoom key. We will confirm that for you, and you may have to push back a week.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks for letting us know, Paul. That is quite important. Obviously, the following Monday's a bank holiday, so we just may need to arrange an unusual timing for this. Obviously, we didn't talk about the accounts at all today in Patrick's absence. Would it be, do you think, worthwhile to invite Patrick to the next one where we can have a chat about the accounts?
Yep, I shall ask him to attend.
Fantastic, that's really good. Pass our thanks on to Phil for his time engaging as always.
Of course.
Thank you for yours, and we'll catch up when we agree, when we can find a Zoom space for Paul that works for him.
Yeah, as soon as I know, I'll let you know.
Superstar. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Cheers, Ian. Thanks a lot.
Guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Bye.